Hey y'all, I am coming to you today for a Saturday morning make, or a Sat morning make, as Jill Norwood has popularized on YouTube. Love watching everyone's videos, and I have stalked for years, and just now have decided to start sharing some of my creations that y'all have inspired me to make, and creations that I have made through the years. I've been stamping and crafting in the rubber stamp and paper crafting world for longer than I would like to admit at this point. But I am not a morning crafter. I'm a nighttime crafter at my desk. I like to craft as I watch TV at night at a desk and just kind of unwind and settle in for the night. It's just relaxing to me. So what I wanted to show today, is these tags, these little Christmas tags that have two primitive little girls on them that say comfort and joy, and they're sewing the quilt. There's a little stocking on each side and the little comfort and joy. Now, here's what I wanted to show though. This is an old stamp out of my stash, and as you'll see, it has handmade on here. I just masked that out. I don't sew, but I've always loved this particular stamp, and it always spoke to me more as a Christmas stamp than a handmade stamp by just masking the handmade off, because there is actually a little stocking on each side. That one's just kind of worn off. The stamp is so old. I'll flip it over and you can see the little stocking on each side. And this stamp has been around forever. It was the original PSX 1987, and you can see how old it is and how primitive the wood stamp was in and of itself by Personal Stamp Exchange, if any of you followed them through the years. So that is the stamp that I used. You can see it's just a little quilt. So what I did is I masked the handmade out, as you can see. And instead of trying to color the quilt that was stamped, I just stamped it onto little pieces of paper and cut the little pieces of paper out, much as you would like a real quilt if you were quilting in real life, and just cut in little pieces and added to kind of give it a little three-dimensional, but also just to kind of mimic that fabric look in a tiny version of a quilt on that. So you can see each one has a little bit different quilt pattern on it, tiny quilt pattern. So you can have a bunch of different colors, different themes. And I was trying to go for just a very rustic, little house on the prairie, sort of primitive Christmas look with the old quilts. Being from the South, I'm sure if any of you have ever slept where there wasn't central heat in a house, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers always pulled out these lovely old quilts. And I actually have a quilt from my great-grandmother that part of the pattern on the quilt was made from old flour sacks, and it's one of my treasured belongings that I have from her because of that. And that's, I think, probably where some of this desire to and love for this little stamp that I've had for years has come from. And so as you can see, I just layered on different little pieces of paper in all kinds of different colors to make the little quilts. And the fun thing about this is we all have it as paper crafters. I know we all have it. We all have tons of little pieces of scrap papers and just different papers that you like with patterns on it, and you can just take little snippets without using a lot of your paper and cut out little designs. And for me, it was fun to go through my paper stash and look at the paper stash on a tinier scale to try to see what would work for quilts and what kind of had a fabric look to it. And so I had the most fun just pulling out little pieces out of my, just different paper packs through the years and just mixing all the colors together. And I didn't really want the quilts to be matchy-matchy because to me, none of my grandmother's or great-grandmother's quilts were ever perfectly matched. They genuinely just kind of used all the remnants that they had. And then this one has the little gingerbread man in the middle that I just fussy cut out. So you can see. Now, are you hearing the little jingle bells ring? So on each one, I also put a little tag up at the top and cut out some additional little stitched hearts. Stamped love. Got a little safety pin with a little rustic little jingle bell on it. And as you can see on this one, that heart kind of matches the quilt that's on that. And just take a little bit of twine and I knotted it, put it through and tied it. So as you can see, each one has a different little tag that says love with a different little heart on it. Just using little paper snippets on here. Little jingle bells. Just to give it that rustic look. All these different little pieces. So, take your twine, punch tiny little holes, and I wanted the twine knotted on the front of the tags on this. A lot of times I'll knot it on the back or tie it at the top, but I just thought this kind of added a little bit of extra primitive look to the old rustic tags. Now, here is my favorite thing about these tags, and I have been doing this for years. I do love ribbons, and I love searching for pretty ribbons, but I also, years ago, just started using pieces of fabric and tearing the fabric to make little rustic ties to go on ornaments and ribbons and packages. I love to do it. It is a very simple process to me that just adds sometimes a quaintness to a tag or an ornament or a project if you're not wanting to have a perfect ribbon. And a lot of these ties that I used are actually flannel. And I wanted to show you what I love about using the flannel. You can just start a little cut with your scissors. The end, just get a little bit of a cut going. And then pull it. Just gonna pull it. You're going to trim the extra off the ends because sometimes it'll kind of unravel. And then to me, it is such a simple, soft, sweet little tie. And it's very easy to shape. And you end up with such a soft little sweet addition to your projects. And the flannel tears so easily, and it leaves you with a little frayed edge to kind of give you that homespun rustic appearance. And here's the other thing I love about it. You can go to a Hobby Lobby. We don't have, where I particularly live, we don't have a lot of fabric stores or independents or big box fabric stores anymore other than our Hobby Lobby. So you can get a 1/4 of a yard of their flannel when it's on sale for about, a yard is about $3.50 when it's on $3.50 when it's on sale for a yard. But I usually just get a 1/4 of a yard at a time, and you can make a couple of dozen little ties out of it. And a 1/4 of a yard will sometimes cost you anywhere from 65 cents to $1.20 for, some of the different printed flannels. but it is so much cheaper sometimes than looking for the ribbons and buying the ribbons. But you can also just kind of get some unique looks that a lot of times ribbons won't give you. And you can see how fun this is with just little soft fabrics torn. And I thought for this project in particular, I really wanted to use the little strips of fabric because it kind of went along with the idea of quilting and having the little pieces left over. And they're so soft. The flannel is just, it's so soft, and it just, to me, it's something you don't see used a lot. And so it kind of adds a little bit of uniqueness to your project. You can see all the different colors. Now, sometimes I do tie my tags one hole in the center and pull it up, but on these, I did the 2 ties because around Christmas time especially, I like for the tags to double as an ornament on the tree if somebody wanted to use it that way. And so you can see, if you just hang it like so, it would also make an adorable little addition to the Christmas tree. So you could use it as a little ornament. The little bell and the little tag. So here's what I used on some of the pieces. The majority of the stamp, again, was this, the old Personal Stamp Exchange with the handmade masked out. And I usually just put a piece of Scotch tape when I'm trying to mask over the back of it while I ink it. Ink it, pull that Scotch tape off, and then make your impression, and you're good to go. I know there's a lot of different ways to mask stamps, but that is my tried and true and preferred method. I also used for the tiny tags, a little love that is part of a Recollections set from Michaels. It just came with a bunch of different words on it. It's not a Christmas set, but it still has a lot of great tiny type words like winter, memories, beautiful. And this is a set that is currently available at Michaels if you're looking for one. And I also, this is another go-to for me, this Sizzix set with this tag on it right here. And I will show you. It's when I use so much, I don't ever put it back in the plastic. I keep it in my little much used tin on my desk. It is this one. And I love it. It has the hole in it for you to hang. And it has the little stitches around it. And I end up adding it to everything. It's just a perfect little size. It's big enough to add embellishments to and words to. So that is that one. Stick that back in here. Then for the Comfort and Joy, there is a Spellbinder set that comes with the die that will cut the little strips. And this one is a Christmas set. It has lots of Christmas sentiments on it, and it's just one of my favorites. I have so many. Heaven and Nature Sing, Cherish the Season, Delivering Warm Hugs. The one I use for this one, which is Comfort and Joy. I love it. Missing You at Christmas, Believe in the Magic, which is just one of my favorite things at Christmas. Baked with Love. So it has lots of good sayings on it. And then the die. So you just pick your paper. I usually actually run the paper through, then I stamp on it. I usually have better luck with that than trying to make sure I line up the stamp perfectly afterwards. So that's the Spellbinder Sentiments, the Christmas set. So then the other set, let me grab this off of my side desk right here. Is the rectangle double stitched dies from Art Impressions, and it is this set right here. And I used 2 different sizes, about in the middle. So I did one out of the craft paper and then one out of the smooth art paper, because I tried it on watercolor paper first, but because this was a heavy inked portion of her dress, the watercolor was not doing this very well, so I switched to the smooth paper to get the smooth impression of her dress. So those are the 2 dies that were used. This. Let's see what else was part of this. So I inked the image in the Distress ink from Tim Holtz in the Vintage Photo. It's a go-to for me. I love the brown. I used to stamp everything in black, and I still use a lot of black, but I love sometimes how I can make the brown fade into the background and not be as bold as the black. I actually was going to stamp this in black to begin with and just kind of mask over top of it and make layers, and I will show you. That was my first go at what I was thinking when I was going to do it in black and cut layers. But even when I did that, I didn't feel like I could make the black dissolve away as much as I wanted to for the more primitive Christmas. So I changed to brown for this one. Now we all have little jingle bells in our stashes, and this is my little jingle bell stash. I just picked the rustic ones to go on there. And then for texture, around the paper and around the edges, I used the tea dye because I wanted something a little bit softer to go on the cream, on the white, to kind of make it look creamy and to contrast with the brown. So you can see, just kind of hit those. And I just used a standard blend brush for that. One little blend brush. And I probably should have a separate blend brush for my tea dye and my Vintage Photo, but I don't. I just kind of brush it off in between uses and go on with that. These are the teeny tiny little safety pins that I used. Extra small. And then just some regular twine. And of course, I sometimes don't ever know where I'm going with something when I start, or I think I'm going one direction with it. And as you start to make it, you're like, oh, I need to tweak this or do that. And so there's a couple of tags that didn't match or didn't kind of look like what I wanted to as I was trying to match up what I wanted to go. So I have a few tags left for another project when I need it. Those can be for the next time. And then I have to show y'all this. So this is my flannel jar, my flannel roll jar. And when I cut paper, when I cut the flannel and tear it, I usually just roll it up and stick it in my jar. Now, I'm going to confess, it is a Duke's mayonnaise jar. Being from the South, everything in the South has Duke's mayonnaise in it. And so somehow we have an abundance of Duke's mayonnaise jars and Jif peanut butter jars. And so I just thought this is the perfect little storage if y'all have never thought about repurposing one of your mayonnaise jars. That is the one I keep all my little rolls of flannel in. And it makes the perfect little storage jar for that. So these are the cards and the little tags and the little ornaments, however you wanted to use them for. The little flannel on it. And this is my contribution this week to the Saturday Morning Makes, except for I craft at night. So until the next time, y'all, have a good night.